And so, but for now, what I want to do is I want to jump into the Word of God. Last week we were in the book of Philippians. I want to return to the book of Philippians, and as as a setup, a little bit of what I was talking about is what's on my mind and what we're going to deal with this pandemic and with this colder weather, with the sun going down earlier and coming up later, we get shorter days. And there's something called seasonal affect disorder. And it's, SAD, some people just call it SAD for short. And what it is, it's a seasonal depression that can come upon people because there's not as much light outside, that the days are shorter, it's colder, and that the mood is affected. So affect talks about emotions. And so seasonal affect disorder. In other words, we could just call it the winter blues, all right? And so what we're talking about in the book of Philippians, we're talking about how to rejoice, right? And we said last week, I'll put it on the screen for you, and it said, let me get past that, but we can always rejoice. That's what we said. We can always rejoice. And last week we went through about 3 of the steps, like what do I need to practice? What do I need to do so that I can rejoice in the Lord? Now here's the thing. There's much in life that can get you down. Have you figured that out by now? I have this one guy, I'm tempted to put like no solicitor, no solicitations on my front door, but I want people to feel welcome to come to my door. But this one guy, he comes, and every time he comes, I tell him, you're not welcome here, and he keeps on coming back. I don't know if he's coming to your door. His name's Bill. Bill keeps coming. He rides in with the mailman, and Bill keeps coming to my house. And he comes several times a month, and that can just depress you. You tell Bill, you're not welcome here, Bill. And Bill says, I'll see you next month. Okay? And then sometimes he rides in with the electric bill, and then sometimes I don't know if it's the same guy or just a bunch of guys named Bill, because there's electric bill, there's water bill, there's gas bill, there's cable, and in cable, he got a long name. His is cable, internet, and phone bill, right? And so for some, he's just cable and internet bill. There's just a bunch of bills. There's medical bill. There's, then there's her cousin car payment, and just that by itself can depress you, right? But we're growing, and we're trusting the Lord, and we're not going to let that get us down. And we know that our God is our provider, and that we are depending upon Him to continue to provide for us. And so we're not going to let that get us down. But then there's just all that's going on in society. There's this social injustice here in Columbus, another homicide, and we can officially call it a homicide because the coroner called it a homicide. Now let me tell you, homicide, let me explain to you that homicide does not necessarily mean murder. Okay? Homicide just means another human killed a human. So like Homo sapiens, humans, you see that word in homicide. Just like suicide means self-killing, like a person killed himself. Regicide, kill a regent, royalty, a king or somebody. Infanticide, kill an infant. So homicide just means another human killed a human. And so they have to take it to the next step if it's murder, to time, so they'll look at that. So don't get confused when you hear the coroner say it was homicide. He's just simply saying this man didn't die on his own, somebody killed him. And he says now the police have to determine, whether the law enforcement has to determine whether it's murder. So that gets us down because it's in our own back door, it's in our own backyard after the George Floyd and Breonna Taylor and all that we've already gone through in 2020, that gets us down. And so we have the social injustice. We don't have to mention the pandemic. We don't have to mention the economic impact. I heard, and I need to verify this, that up to 50% of the restaurants in Ohio have already shut down permanently because they're out of business. They can't stay in business. It's projected that already how many churches are going to close over the next 18 months permanently, and all that type of thing, and it's just like, wow, that just gets you down when you think about all that. I like watching Jeopardy, and then Alex Trebek passed away, and I like basketball, and earlier Kobe Bryant, got killed in a helicopter crash, and And this time of year they remind you of everybody that died, even Charlie Pride. If you like country music or respect what he did opening up doors for people, he passed away COVID related, 85 or 86 years old, and which lets us know that money and fame are not, do not exempt you from this pandemic. All right? And so just on and on. I mean, I could just keep naming things and naming things and naming things. Can't shop like you want to. Some of you like Black Friday, you like getting up early and doing all that activity and, and running through the doors and acting like a wild person and ramming your cart in things and cutting people off and, all that Christmas spirit stuff. And you didn't get to do that this year, you have to do that online. And I mean, it's just one thing after another. I know I'm in the back of the line for the vaccine. I'm not important enough that they would put my name way up there high on the list. They already said who's going to get it. It's the medical people, and I think people over 85 or something. Okay, nursing homes. Okay, and so unless you change the status of your home to a nursing home real quickly, you know what I'm saying? I mean, there's a lot to you get all these flood applications at the state for nursing homes. How many people live here? Just 2 of us. But there's a lot, I say it humorously, but there's a lot that we are relying on the Lord for. Just so much going on. And you know what I didn't even touch? I didn't even touch your personal stressors. That's just some of what's going on in the world. Okay? That's just some of what's going on in the world. And again, politics, what the electoral college, they're going to meet and vote, and we hope they vote the right way. Okay, that's what that rally was about yesterday, to try to sway them to vote, a different way. And but you know what I'm saying? So there's just a lot to pray about. There's just a lot to be stressed about. And then you pull out your list, and now we're all down. Now we're all sad. We walked into the house of the Lord with our heads lifted up. And if I stop right here, we'd all leave depressed. We would all leave depressed. You know why I'm smiling? Keep from crying. You ever that's, I mean, I think that's why some people laugh so much, and oppressed cultures, I think, enjoy a lot of laughter. And I think the reason that oppressed cultures historically have laughed so much is to keep from crying, to give ourselves something. And so that is very much in line with what our topic for today is, that we can always rejoice. We're going to look at Philippians 4, and I'll give you 3 of these reasons, or steps on how to learn how to rejoice no matter what's going on, how to overcome. Now, I'm not saying that if you're depressed that you're not applying God's word, that you're not trusting Him, because we all get down sometimes. And some people just struggle with depression. I've been there, multiple times in my life, and I just fight my way through it just like anybody else. I mean, every day can't be Sunday, right? Every day can't be an up day. And we want them to be, but what do you do when you are down? Do you feed into it, or do you fight against it? Okay, because some people, they like to feed into it. And if I could, I would have put on the screen, remember Eeyore on Winnie the Pooh, the little donkey? Remember him? And he walks in and everybody's excited and everybody's happy, and Eeyore is such a downer. I mean, poor Eeyore, he just fights depression. He has such low self-esteem. I mean, everything, he just feeds into everything. He walks into the room and everybody's happy, and Eeyore says, "Must be a party, I wasn't invited." Okay, I mean, they're just laughing at a joke or something. And so we can have that Eeyore mindset where we just feed into it, all right? And so here's the thing: if you ask me to come to dinner, and let's say everything's safe, no pandemic, but if you ask me to come to dinner and I said no, you say, "I want you to come. Are you doing anything Sunday afternoon? I want you to come to dinner," and I said, "Well, no, thank you." So what are you thinking if I say that? What are you thinking? I mean, tell me, what do you think? Why do you think I said no? Okay, didn't want to come? Anybody else? Why do you think I said no? What's that? All right, that's something better to do.
Don't like chickens.
Yeah, don't like chickens. That is going to be a correct answer no matter what I say. Okay? All right, anybody else? So, didn't want to come, have something better to do, don't like chitterlings. Okay, any other answers?
Mad about something.
What's that?
Mad about something.
Okay, I think the person can't cook, would you say?
Mad about something.
Mad about something. Okay, yeah, no, I can't come. I'm mad about something. No, I can't come. You can't cook. Okay, that's what's going on in my head. All right, that's what you think. All right, so anybody else?
You don't like meat.
I don't like meat. Oh, don't like you. Okay. All right, now. You're like, no, I don't come. I don't like that person. All right. So here's my point when I said we can think like Eeyore, where we just feed into it. Eeyore walks into a room and he assumes that they're having a party because nobody invited him. And there's no party going on. And so here's how we can make ourselves more depressed, is we can create all these stories. And none of them can be wrong. Because maybe I did want to come. You see what I'm saying? I mean, that sounds like a good answer, like didn't want to come. No, maybe I did want to come. Maybe I'm already obligated. Or maybe I don't feel well. Or you understand what I'm saying? Maybe there's some other reason I'm saying, well, this Sunday doesn't work, but Tuesday works for me. You see? And so a lot of times what we do is we feed into the story and we make up things and we walk away believing these things and we're depressing ourselves. And Sister Nanny said, he said no because he doesn't like me. Okay, and brother Deacon Johnson said no. What was your other reason besides chitlins?
I was mad.
Yeah, he said because he's mad. And you see what I'm saying? And so we create these stories and we stress ourselves out. And all I said was no. I want you to get this as you go through your week. God's saying a lot of times you are believing lies that you told yourself. Is everybody with me?
Yes, sir.
Now let me tell you, I'm going to put you in line with somebody that you might not want to be in line with. There's another person that lies a lot and doesn't fact check and says whatever they want to say and makes up things. And files lawsuits and has his own judges telling there's no merit to what you're saying. There's no merit to what you're saying, and he's looking at them saying, this is why I appointed you, so you can go along with my lies, right? And we get upset. Now, I'm not talking about him, I'm talking about us. And we get upset with him because he didn't fact check and then go with what was true. But then we come up with things that we never fact checked. Nobody asked me, said, why don't you want to come? You see? And so that's what I'm saying. A lot of times what we do is we feed into things and it may not even be any of that, and we walk away and then the other person can't understand, I'm sitting there thinking, well, I don't know why they got an attitude with me. I don't know why they invite everybody else after a while. I'm like, they invite everybody else to dinner, but they don't like me because he's mad. He didn't want to come. He didn't like me. They're coming up with all these stories and none of it's true. Stressing everybody out. First started with themselves, now this stress, now it's overflowing to everybody else. And so that adds to the depression. That adds to feeling down. That adds to feeling blue. I mean, some people, listen, some people are not giving you a hard time. I learned a phrase the other week, and it was talking about people who have like Alzheimer's and things like that. And I wrote it down and said, I'm going to use this phrase, especially when talking about that group and talking with that group or ministering to their families. And they said, this person is not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. And a lot of times we think people are giving us a hard time when it just may be that they're having a hard time at that moment. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, we know like the BMV, a lot of times they have a lot of hard times, okay? But we don't know what their situation is. We don't know what their profile, type of people they hire. We don't know, how stressful that job might be, how tiring. But we don't really know those things. So maybe there's real reasons, and they're not giving us a hard time. Maybe they're having a hard time. And I picked them because they are notorious historically, for being rude and not caring and things like that, even though they've improved over the years. But a lot of times we feed ourselves stories that feed into our own depression. And God is saying, sometimes you have, not sometimes, but you need to stop doing that because you call yourself believers, but you can't believe lies. You can't believe things that are not true. So you are a believer, but you're not believing truth. Are you walking with me? All right, and so let's look real quickly. So last week we said you can rejoice. And remember, we said there's 3 types of problems, and we said there's health problems, relational problems, and financial problems. We said everything fits in one of those 3 categories. That'll come up again in a little bit here. But we said, and we started in Philippians 4, and remember, Paul was in prison when he wrote this. And remember, step 1 is just simply this. Let me go here. Is this. Here's your check. Did you, over the past week, since that was your assignment from the Bible, from the Lord last week, did you celebrate every day? All right? You need to ask yourself that. Did you find something to celebrate every day? All right? Were you gentle? Because as Paul said, the Lord is near. This is just a review of last week. Okay? And did you stop worrying and start praying? Because that one helped me a lot this past week. There are things that I was concerned about, and I stopped worrying about it, and I immediately started praying about it. And some of those things I saw God move, and I saw things happen this week. Things that I was worried about. See, there's certain things we shouldn't be worried about, and there are certain things that we should be praying about. And so a lot of times what we're doing is we spend more time worrying. See, worrying is just faith in reverse. You're believing that the bad's going to happen rather than believing that the good's going to happen. Believing that God can do something about your situation. Are you with me? And so let's look at what is one of the benefits of stop worrying and start praying. Philippians 4:6. I will read that one, and then we'll go into verse 7. It says, "Be anxious for everything, but in nothing." Did I get that backwards?
Yeah.
Okay, and remember what I said last week? I'm reading it like some live it. Okay, be anxious for nothing, but in everything, by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving, let your request be made known to God. Let your request be made known to God. That is a command. Lord, here's what I'm requesting. Okay, I mean, we have permission. We are being commanded to let our request be made known to God. But he says this, he says, in everything, so in every situation, and remember, we're talking about anxiety, we're talking about stress, we're talking about worry, we're talking about being sad, being depressed, having the blues. And nobody wants the Christmas blues. All right? But it happens. And so I'm trying to help you. But he says, by prayer. So we know what prayer is. That's communication with God. Supplication, that is asking, for to be supplied. But there is a hint in this word that's not only asking God, but it's asking human. You see what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes Minister Picard might have what you need, and you're praying to God, and Minister Picard is standing right next to you. Oh God, can somebody please help me carry this? Look, here's Lane, a big old high school football player back in the day, and here's Lane, could have played in college and all that, and you're praying, God, can somebody help me carry this? Oh God, there's nobody here to help me. You can just send somebody. And so sometimes God's saying by prayer, that's the reason it says by prayer and supplication with thanksgiving. So it's not just by prayer, but he's saying, ask God to supply, but he says sometimes the person has what you need. Now, I'm not this bold. And years ago I heard, that this pastor, he came up front and they were having a building fund. And then he said, how many of you want to see this church blessed with the new building? And then everybody got excited and they're saying amen. He said, well, the blessing's in your pocket. Okay. In other words, he was supplicating, but he wasn't smooth about it, but he was clear, all right? He wasn't sitting there thinking, well, no sense of me praying about this one when I can just ask them, they already have what I need. You get what I'm trying to say? Sometimes people have what we need, and we're asking God because we're too independent. And so we walk away without, and so we're still worried about whether we're going to get it or not. You need a ride? Oh no, I'm fine. Okay, you're fine. Car doesn't work.